Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast that discusses free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I'm Ryan.
And I am Doug. Ryan, how are you today?
Pretty bad because I'm in Indiana,
Yeah, that's not a
and
that's not a good place to be. That's a bad
I can
state.
only I can only see the promised land that Tony Khan has guaranteed to me, known as Chicago, from across the lake here. I can smell the all elite feasts from the White Castles from the distance. Yeah. It's a sad day. It's a really sad day.
I will be I
But
will be getting the all elite feasts as soon as
oh yeah.
they come out because I mean I am walking distance from White Castle. So
Well, you saw the meme that I posted in our group there, which is there's this meme that goes around every single time that an AEW event gets announced for Chicago, and it's like this drip like pipe that goes to this big fat bulging Chicago, and then little drips drop off for everybody else for AEW events. And I was like, that's the all elite feast right there.
it is.
Chicago's getting all of them.
Well, and here's the other thing. I am genuinely curious, like, what is this to you exclusive merch items that you would get? I mean, I doubt that White Castle's handing out T-shirts. I mean,
It's
maybe they are,
probably
but
toys.
yeah. Which hey,
Because like they
I'm
have
cool with
those
that.
new little small toys. I can't remember what they're called because I'm not the prime demo for
Right.
that stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little toy that goes with it.
Well, I will be getting a little toy, two little toys, and as along with all the other. That's a lot of food to be completely honest. That's a
It
massive
is
amount
it
of food.
is it is as they say a feast.
Yeah. Well, it said it's like it's for four people. I was looking at it. That's more than four people, I think.
But right before we jumped on to hit record, I believe that you were saying that this was going to be a juicy episode. Speaking of feasts,
I
especially concerning some TNA stuff that we have to discuss for today's episode.
Yeah. I think TNA is going to be an interesting situation to look at going forward, especially in terms of the promotions that we watch. I don't think we're ready to have that full discussion yet. I think we want to see how uh, things shake out. But having said that, it's hard to ignore what TNA is doing right now, especially when we're looking at these contracts expiring or potentially fake expiring, or people who are in TNA moving elsewhere. Like it's all interconnected with TNA, and TNA is something we
Yeah.
need to keep in mind with these people.
So
So it's important.
how about we just start with that as the topic to start with of okay, but what's going on with TNA?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
so
topic.
So there have been rumors for a little while now, and reports for a while now about TNA trying to find a new long-term television home, beyond the confines of the station that the company that owns them owns. The Access doesn't have the most access, as it were, of all television stations, but at the same time, TNA very rarely cracks into the top 100 for television programs every week. So it's not like that there's a huge audience for TNA necessarily, but at the same time, the network that they're on doesn't have a huge audience either. We had reports this week, starting with John Alba reporting via Sports Illustrated, saying that there were discussions with a few television stations, including the CW and A&E, and that WWE has been assisting TNA in these discussions. TNA has hired a firm, I think it was CAA, to assist them with these negotiations as well. Let's just start with that level because we can transition to the next level, which is some of the stuff that Dave Meltzer was reporting in Wrestling Observer newsletter this week. Let's just start with the television level and the possibility, and wrapped into this, that TNA might try to move to Wednesday nights as part of this, possibly being influenced by WWE to do so. So, Doug, let's start with all this part of the equation, and then we're going to work our way through each layer until we get to the talent side of this, because I think that we have to set the scene a little bit from the business side before we get into the juice of the talent side.
Yeah, so I think first of all, obviously, we're seeing lots of discussions about TNA potentially being sold or being, uh, you know, put. There's some type of agreement, but
Yeah,
in every single situation, I feel like all that's aside. the important thing here is that they're still going to be linked and tied in some way to WWE.
Yeah, and that's kind of where this was heading to, was with the Dave Meltzer side of this reporting, is that in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, he goes in depth a little bit more on this. There's some speculation, some not. But allegedly that there are offering up TNA for sale. That is the too long didn't read of what Meltzer is reporting. In particular, there are two parts to this equation. One is that there seems to be a potential buyer in, you might know the name better than I can remember it off the top of my head, but he was formerly one of the founders or owners of UFC.
Yeah, it's one of those names that I see a lot in writing, but I can't. I don't want to attempt to pronounce it. But yeah, he's former UFC promoter. But he got out. I think he got out before the sale.
Yes, he was out before the TKO sale. Lorenzo Fertitta is the
Yeah,
gentleman's name.
I think he was
Um,
out before the Endeavor sale even.
Yes, so he's been out of TNA, out of UFC for a while, but the rumoring about it is that this is a friendly party to WWE, because there is a strong, heavy rumor that Dave Meltzer was reporting on with this, is that he had some WWE sources confirm this for the matter, is that TNA was given a similar offer as the European promotions like WXW, Over the Top, Rev Pro, and Progress received years ago when WWE was launching NXT UK, which was, hey, we're going to partner with you, we'll lend you talent, we're going to get the rights to your programming for streaming on the WWE network, and then we get the right of first refusal to buy your promotion. And
Yeah,
that's the part of this where it becomes really juicy about what WWE is doing here with all of this. Of course, it doesn't seem like that there's going to be any interest in necessarily, putting TNA's matches on the WWE network, but if they have the streaming rights possibly to TNA, they can help with the sale of broadcast rights for TNA, and it's in WWE's interest for that. But also, something that like Dave was kind of speculating on with this is that it kind of, it doesn't necessarily, in true terms, actually legally take them out of the monopoly situation that they're having with court battles, but they're doing the same thing essentially that they were doing with AAA, which is AAA was bought technically in a partnership with a local company called Philippe. So it's technically a joint endeavor. It is not technically just WWE owning outright a promotion, right? So it's not monopoly, right? That's
mm-hmm.
what they're thinking, at least. That's what they're
Yeah,
thinking. So if they can get a friendly party to purchase TNA, and then they can say hands up, oh yeah, we had the first right of first refusal. Well, we're not going to buy it, so no worries here. Um, they're just going to, let the sale happen to this friendly party, and then they're just going to continue to use TNA as a kind of feeder partner promotion. In particular, Dave Meltzer mentions that there are pitches that are being made to potential buyers of the fact that AEW has a $185 million a year contract for broadcast rights. And they're saying to these people, hey, well, I mean, if that's what the number two promotion in America is getting in American rights, maybe if you help us with TNA, maybe you can get 185 million a year. That's the play right now with the situation. If you want to continue.
yeah, and I think the to cut through, because this is a lot of info, but I think the big thing to cut through all this is not about WWE trying to raise up TNA because they want TNA to be a viable number two. They're doing it because they're trying to undercut AEW.
Yes.
And that is ultimately what they're looking at here. Now, why are they so obsessed with this? I think the most obvious and likely reason is just because they understand that AEW is undercutting a lot of their leverage in negotiations. I think that that's a big part of it. And then when that happens, that increases their overall costs for terms of talent. It takes away their market share. These are all things that will hurt the stock price. And that is obviously, as a publicly traded company, that's going to be priority number one.
Mhm.
Now, um, moving to when, and you see, I'll be honest, moving this TNA to Wednesday, I understand why they're doing it. It's along the lines of why they're constantly trying to put these shows up against AEW pay-per-views. And I mentioned this online earlier, but I think it's something that not a lot of people are talking about. Dave, for one, mentioned this idea that, you know, yeah, putting stuff against AEW pay-per-views, and I think most recently they're talking about moving a main roster pay-per-view, Bad Blood. I think that's what it's
Well,
rumored to be.
yeah, so it's the September pay-per-view. The rumor is that they're going to be announcing shortly a pay-per-view that will happen in less than a month at this point. It'll happen on, or exactly a month from now, it'll happen on the same day as All Out is in Toronto. The rumor is that they'll have a WWE main roster pay-per-view in Indianapolis. And the rumor also continues that this will be where Brock versus Cena happens.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people, and David said he believes that this, because it'd be the first time they see a main roster pay-per-view, or PLE, I should say, especially for what I'm about to
It's
say. It's a PLE.
it it's the first time that WWE has actually seriously tried to counter program AEW,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And I
Because
and
every other one has just been, oh, let's just throw NXT as fodder. Every single other variation of it has been that, right?
yes, and the most recent one, All In, was kind of a complete disaster
Yes.
because All In did an incredible buy rate, and we saw uh, the Saturday night's main event that it kind of bled into really take a sizable hit from the last Saturday night's main event. I'm not
I,
willing to say that that's 100% on AEW. It could
I
just be that
yeah.
those shows are kind of dropping a little bit. I mean,
I,
that's
I think I think my opinion on why that one didn't do as well is partially because half of the program was overlapped by AEW. We never saw the quarter hours for that,
no, we didn't,
mind
which is
you,
odd. Which
which
is
is
odd.
which is odd. It's very odd. It definitely says to me that the quarter hours would have shown that. Um, at least that's with absence of evidence.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing is that I think that their booking decision to actually make the focus of the pay-per-view not Goldberg's retirement, but Seth Rollins' injury angle, um, detracted from the the power of the pay-per-view. I mean, it's not pay-per-view, it was a TV special, but you know what I mean. Like, I think that if they had just stuck to this is Goldberg's retirement and that was it would have been a positive note. People would have wanted to tune in positively, and people would have been talking about it afterwards positively and not talking about, hey, they cut off Goldberg because they went over on the Seth Rollins spot. Is it real or not?
Mhm.
Like, it changed the conversation, and that's an own goal for them, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of own goals that are coming because this all feels very desperate on WWE's part. And I think that one thing that I think Dave got wrong is he says that he believes, because this is going to be the first time a main roster PLE goes against an AEW pay per view, and he believes that this is going to hurt AEW and it's going to hurt their buy rate significantly. And I'm going to disagree. And I don't think a lot of people are really disagreeing, because here's the thing to keep in mind: an AEW pay per view costs $50 for most people, correct?
For Americans, it legally costs $50.
And in general, there's not a great way to watch those pay per views on demand. Some services you can. When it was on Bleacher Report, it was you could rewatch it
I
whenever you wanted. When you order it on Sling, you have it for like a couple days. But it's not
no,
universally
no, no.
accessible.
It's no now with Amazon, it's extremely easy to access, and Amazon pushes out ads for it before the shows happen through email. If you start watching the pay-per-view late, it's very easy to start from the beginning or from a new place. It's very easy to scroll the Amazon app
How long
on
do you get
Prime
access?
and infinitely.
Okay, so that's like Bleacher Report,
It
because
is, it is, and it's better than Bleacher Report because it's Prime and they actually have the infrastructure.
okay, cool. So
Yeah.
so that point aside, I think there's still a psychology behind this idea that this is a pay per view that costs $50, And because it costs $50 in the consumer's mind, there's more value to it. And it's something that people are more willing to say, I need to watch this as it's happening. Whereas with a PLE that's just on Peacock, that's included in their streaming service, they definitely, that feels less valuable. And I think that's just a normal marketing consumer thing where they feel like they can wait on that. So even if it's a WWE show, that people maybe consider WWE the bigger promotion, the more important promotion, if people feel that way. A $50 pay per view is still $50, and that feels different. That feels more urgent. And when
I
I think about the people that are buying a $50 AEW pay per view, I don't, and the people who are already doing it, like if someone who bought a pay per view and they have the choice between buying the next pay per view and watching that live or watching the free PLE that they could watch at any point still, I think they're going to choose the AEW pay per view largely.
I disagree because it's free versus $50.
But I
That's no, that's just it's just money. Like if somebody is being offered, hey, okay, especially like think about what is going to be on All Out. It's
Yes,
being built around Edge and Christian versus FTR. That seems pretty obvious, right?
yes,
Okay, so you have a reunion of an Attitude Ruthless Aggression era tag team. Finally, main eventing, right? What is the main event of this supposed WWE pay per view? It is the reignition of a Ruthless Aggression era singles bout. See, it's the same thing.
yes.
So, what are you going to take? The free thing or the $50 thing? People are going to take the free thing. That's just psychology of a consumer. That's just what psychology would say.
We'll
Uh,
see. Well,
and I think, but so I think that All Out. I think that if you look at past pay per views for AEW, their floor has been around 100, 120,000 buys. I
right.
think that it's possible that what people will do is because of the way that a consumer habit would dictate, you would take the free thing now because it's free now. And then you want to hear what people say about the thing that you would have to pay $50 for. So if you're somebody that is not in that 120,000 hard line, will buy every single time AEW people, if you're in the 80,000 people that are like, hey, like I check in for All Out. I mean, I checked in for All In. I check in for Sting's retirement. I check in for CM Punk coming in, those kinds of people. I want to see, what AEW is about. I've been hearing that it's been good lately, but, maybe I want to hold off on a $50 pay per view to hear if it's been good. So I think that those people are that's the overage there. That'll get it to whether or not the pay per view's buy rate keeps up. And also, for that matter, when they report those buy rates, it's usually not an overnight buy rate. It's usually a week post pay per view is when we get those numbers usually. So I think that it's possible that we'll hear from Meltzer or other people that are in tune with buy rate discussions. That I what I would predict is that early buys will be slow, and then late buys will be high based off of the quality of the pay per view.
We'll circle back on this one when we get the numbers because I think it's going to be the other way, and I think that there's a psychology behind streaming services right now, and we're seeing it with Netflix on Raw or the Raw on Netflix, where we are seeing more and more people willing to just wait, and I think that's a psychology of streaming service where
I
they
think
could
that's
just
because of
log in.
ads.
That's
That's because of ads.
that may be the case, and but I'm just saying in general, the PLEs are the same thing. And I think that you're going to see a situation where people just because it's on Peacock, they're in their mind that it's like, hey, I could watch this later. I could watch this anytime I have Peacock. Whereas a pay per view is still going to feel like appointment viewing just by the fact that it is something that you are specifically spending money on for one specific event, not a streaming service, but one specific event. And I think that draws more attention. So we'll circle back.
Yeah.
We'll see if there
To,
was a significant decline.
to get back on topic with this a little bit with the TNA aspect of it, it does seem that as it pertains to talent, that recently we've had some talent either decide to leave TNA and go towards
Oh,
AEW. We've had a
and
few of those
real quick,
recently.
real quick, before we jump into the talent, I just want to talk about TNA on Wednesday, the potential of that real quick, since
Yeah.
we're on that.
So yeah.
So this idea, once again, the idea that I understand why they're putting them on Wednesday, but for similar reasons, I don't know that that's going to make a big impact because I don't think we saw. I think people really overblow how much the Wednesday Night War NXT AEW, how much that had a negative impact on AEW because when they moved off, when NXT moved to Tuesdays, the numbers weren't that different.
So
It was
yeah, so what my opinion upon that also is related to like looking at the grand history of TNA's revival of brand. Has been it started with when Scott Demore was running the company. And when Scott Demore was running the company, there was a lot of goodwill and fans wanted TNA to succeed. The general internet wrestling community wanted TNA to succeed, right? Wrestling fans wanted TNA to succeed. They see TNA is coming back. They're having this big show that they're really pushing. They're gonna have Osprey appear on one of the tapings. Okada's gonna be there too. There's been rumors that TNA might be trying to, push a little money to get one big talent. Maybe they're gonna get Osprey. Maybe they're gonna get Punk to come to TNA. And then what happens? Scott gets thrown at to the curb, and then soon after we get all this WWE partnership stuff. That which sounds like now the reports seem to be like a first refusal to buy TNA essentially.
yeah,
Um, so I think that the general wrestling fans want TNA to succeed. It doesn't mean that the general wrestling fan wants any company to be number one or number two or number three or whatever. They just want more options that are successful and that have different styles. And I think that TNA historically has had a different style to the other promotions. They attract a different kind of wrestling fan than other promotions do. Sometimes it seems like they're the halfway point between the AEW and WWE style at times, I would say. Um, so I think that TNA fan base wise, if it had been historically, might have killed off more viewers from AEW than NXT would actually, because NXT is very, upfront. This is developmental and this is WWE style. You know, TNA is not upfront about either of those things. There are a variety of different talent here. There are people in their primes that are here at TNA, and we don't just do like a WWE style thing. We do a variety of different match types. We do a variety of different styles. We have partnerships with other promotions that we're going to bring in talent from. Historically, at least that was the case. And now I guess the case is that talent is WWE talent, but still, that's kind of what TNA style has been historically. Um, I feel that if they go on CW, that we know what the baseline is
yeah,
because we just know what the average CW program is, and we know what NXT is able to do on CW. I don't think that they're going to go to NXT level of their viewership, but I think that there is a baseline of just what average CW show does, and I think that it will be above average. That will make it better than what they're doing right now. Yes.
yeah.
It will make it so that suddenly they have hundreds of thousands of viewers versus like maybe 90,000 viewers on Access. So it'll be a net positive for TNA, period, I think.
Or A and
Uh,
E if that's
or
or
A&E is different.
or
A&E is different.
sci-fi.
A&E is a cable channel, doesn't have the same access that CW has. And when you look at the ratings that those the WWE, LFG, and all those documentaries get, it is not a lot of people watching it. It is kind of in the same region that TNA is currently getting on access. So I think that that would be a terrible choice for TNA. I think that they would get killed in the ratings if it's against Dynamite. They're on A&E, I think that if they go on CW, they're going to increase their viewership. I don't think that they're going to actually compete with AEW. I don't think that they're going to really hurt AEW much. But I think that for TNA, if they go to CW, regardless of date, it would be a positive for TNA's reach. The question though is, what do they sell of their soul to make this deal? And it sounds like what they're selling is themselves.
Not enough people are talking about TNA coming in and counter programming Evolve.
Well, that's essentially what Dave was mentioning was that like Evolve did nothing on Tubi. So
Yeah.
now they're like, what can we do that's more to push up the next level of counter programming? And that is, well, we're not going to sacrifice NXT. We have that's the only next thing up for us. So I guess the next thing up is to put TNA on Wednesdays. I mean, they could put
Well,
AAA if they got AAA a weekly deal, they could do that, But
well, it's wild because TNA they did NXT and it didn't work. So
uh,
it's
it did a little bit for them, and I think that the sales for Slammiversary, I think, were definitely due to AJ Styles in particular, not due to anything else. Um, so I think that the problem for TNA is the talent that they're getting from the partnership or NXT level, and what they should be wanting to push themselves as a brand is main roster level talent that are coming to TNA, and that's just not what WWE is ever going to do. Even if they put them on Wednesdays against AEW, they're never going to, give them an AJ Styles to put on TNA.
my last point that I'll just kind of say on this is that I think that this is a very Nick Khan thing in the sense that
Yes.
he can't help himself doing something. Like he needs to
Yeah.
do something because he's in interviews. He talks about it's like I don't understand these people who don't answer phone calls in the middle of the night or don't want to work all the time or say they're tired. It's like shouldn't be tired. It's like he's just like he's got that mindset, and this is the way he's going about it. I think is making it worse because I think if you really wanted as the market leader, which is what WWE is, if they really wanted to come at AEW and do some significant damage, they would completely just like ignore them, just completely no sell them. If someone
Well,
mentions them, say I don't know who they are. I don't know what that is. I think that would do more damage because all they're doing is hyper focusing attention on the fact that AEW exists.
I think that they're Streisanding it a little bit.
They are. They absolutely are.
But I think that there's two strategies that I think would be best for WWE in this moment. If they want to kill AEW, it's essentially what like this is the goal. I think there are two strategies. One is what you just said of ignore, act like they don't exist, and put on a better product.
Mhm.
Um, and they don't seem like I it's not the talent. I don't think the talent are trying to tank WWE, but it feels that the executive class and the creative class within WWE recently have decided to go in a direction of it doesn't matter what negative impact happens to our company, we just want to kill the other company. So I think that that's a misstep by them. I think the second way to do it is what we are about to see, which is no, you can't just throw random shit against the wall and hope that it sticks. You can't do that, right?
Right.
You can't just be like, oh yeah, well here's a NXT half dash pay per view that we're going to put on the same time as All In because our previous attempt of counter programming with the Saturday Night Main Event got thwarted. Like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. What you need to do is what they're about to do, which is okay. They're running a pay per view on that night. We're going to run a pay per view on that night, and we're going to make a better show. We're going to make a crazier show. We're going to make something that more people are going to want to tune in for now. And something like putting Cena versus Brock is exactly that. Like that is doing that. I think that if it wasn't
Maybe.
if it wasn't for the fact that they're trying to do Cena's retirement for the December thing, you know what I would do if I was WWE? Because you already know where AW is doing World's End, right? Where are they
Yes.
doing it?
They're doing it in Chicago.
You know what I would do if I was WWE?
What?
Do a pay-per-view in Chicago the same night.
Yeah.
Get tickets on sale before AW can.
And here,
Announce
yeah.
and yeah, like center it around what you could turn Punk heel by then and have it be Punk versus Cena one last time. That's Cena's retirement match, and have Cena go out on top over Punk, which I know is backwards booking, but I think that that's what you would do in that moment, and like have that in Chicago. And like really fuck with the fans a little bit, or screw with the fans. I'm gonna bleep that out probably. Really screw with the fans a little bit. But like that's the kind of thing that you would do if you're actually trying to compete. You
Well,
would directly compete.
if you noticed, um, the fact that all Out was not in Chicago this year, that was kind of a surprise to some people, and it was also not on Labor Day weekend, which is a surprise to some people, including clearly WWE, because where is Raw after Labor Day weekend this year?
It's in Chicago.
In
I mean, like
Chicago.
if you were somebody that was tapped into the scene enough, you would know that this was a long time coming, especially once it was announced that Double or Nothing was moving out of Vegas.
Yeah.
This was going to happen this year, no matter what. Those two things. Like it has been for a couple years now that the Chicago market has been overtapped for this pay-per-view. And also that the Labor Day weekend, when in combination with the London weekend the previous week, is not working for AEW.
And that without even factoring the fact they just had a 3-week residency in the city.
Yeah, and that's another thing that like is become a very clear calling card for AEW is if they plan to do a residency in a city, it means that they're going to do a pay-per-view in that city.
Mhm.
So they did the Arlington residency, it led into All In. They did the Chicago residency, it leads into World's End. They're doing a Philly residency, it leads into a Newark pay-per-view, but it's possible that they're going to then do a Hammerstein residency in December, so it'll kind of work out between the two.
Mhm.
So that seems to be like the AEW MO right now is kind of like using the hype off of the residencies to build to a pay-per-view at a later date during the same year and kind of roll through like that and build partnerships with cities in general rather than just one venue in particular necessarily. Um, and I was talking to actually the other day to a venue that has hosted NXT, a live event. This is hot news here, um, and they were saying that it went extremely well for them as a venue, and that WWE actually even asked them if the following week they could run the venue again.
Interesting.
So this has become a thing for promotions that are getting a live audience at the level that AEW has at the high end, and then your NXT and TNA at the low end are getting. Is that using these concert venues, which is something that I proposed a year ago, and now it's happening. Everybody's doing it. um, it's become like a trend within the wrestling community to run these kinds of venues. So I'm interested to see where it goes and it flourishes from here. But I would love to get to the talent discussions related to DNA with this.
Yes, let's go. Let's hop in.
We had Ace Austin. We had rumors that possibly he was going to be going to WWE or that WWE had interest in him. Maybe that was latter day smokescreen because he was just announced as All Elite in Chicago.
It could be. I also think that it's very reasonable and possible that, you know, WWE kind of lowballed him, offered
Mhm.
him some NXT deal, which I'm sure they did. I don't think they would offer him a main roster deal. I mean, I like Ace Austin, but I do think he is, he's a perfectly serviceable lower mid card guy, and I don't even necessarily see him being higher than that in AEW. I think he'll probably do ROH for a while. If I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And I think, but I know that AEW definitely has a pretty high ceiling for their talent, and even if he does get on, you know, on AEW television, that's probably going to be, even if it's mostly on just collisions and things like that, that's still going to be a decent amount of
Yeah.
exposure. So I understand. And if we're being completely honest, if you want to get a good WWE contract, the best way it seems to do that is to go to AEW first. So for a lot of reasons, it does make a lot of sense in retrospect. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been shocked if he went to WWE, and I think in general, a lot of us thought that's where he was going. Um,
Yeah,
but
I think for him that like for somebody of his age, 28, his weight class, I think that AEW doesn't have a ceiling based on weight class, it feels like, as much as WWE does still have that.
and not only
Um,
that, it feels like if you're a larger guy in AEW, you don't necessarily get pushed as hard. Like
well,
you
it's,
are
yeah, it's,
just
they counter each other on. There's something that we've discussed before about how the tag divisions are a are mirror image to whatever promotion singles division is. So
Mm-hmm.
the tag division in AEW is where the meaty guys go, and the singles division is where the athletic guys go. But then it's counter in WWE. The big muscular guys are the main eventers, and your tag division is athletic people usually.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so he would have been destined for a life as a tag wrestler, most likely in WWE, unless he had really broken out or bulked up. Um, I think that his ceiling, as you said, can be pretty high in AEW just because of the fact that they are pretty open about, letting talent see where they fall. I think that what we've seen recently with some other TNA crossovers of similar size and athleticism, Speedball, Kevin Knight, I think that that kind of shows possible direction for Ace Austin in AEW. I think also his membership in Bullet Club might help him here. I think that the Bullet Club Gold could use some bulking up of members due to injury, and I think that Ace Austin fits in with what how Bullet Club Gold is characterized within AEW right now, and could really work with that team as well. So I think that there are a lot of ways that he could get slotted into AEW from the get go and be immediately involved in feuds or groups that actually are pushing him as a talent. So I understand totally why he's going to AW, in addition to the fact of the TNA of it all,
And,
which
and
is we're seeing this trend of a few wrestlers picking AEW that were TNA people that we thought maybe would go to WWE, but then we are kind of like, wait, is it because maybe something is happening with TNA beyond what we have seen up until now with all these reports about the the possible purchase of the company?
I also think that AEW in general seems to be bulking up their factions to be larger because you have the
Mhm.
conglomeration, you have the Don Callis family that seems to be bursting at the seams. Death Riders is obviously like a 5-person team that sometimes 6 if you add Gabe Kidd in there. So adding another person to the Bang Bang Gang would make a lot of sense, and I could see them doing that for sure.
Yeah. So how about we keep it with the TNA kind of focus, and when we talk about someone that seems to be going the opposite direction, which is Joe Hendry. This was recently posted on social media that at one of the NXT house shows, Joe Hendry was featured on it, which is kind of abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
And he said allegedly at the NXT house show that he'd be doing NXT going forward. Of course, that is pretty broad definitionally. We can take that a lot of different ways. It could just mean that he's going to be doing these NXT house shows going forward. Could just mean that he's just going to appear on NXT going forward. It could mean, of course, and we know that his contract is running up this year, that he already knows that he is going to be signing with WWE and going to NXT going forward. So, which vibe do you go with from that quotation?
Well, first of all, it does feel like they've kind of missed the peak on Joe Hendry. I think that he doesn't seem quite as hot as he once did,
Mhm.
but I do think he's probably going to WWE at some point. But it ties in with the TNA discussion in the sense that we don't even know what TNA is going to look like, and there is the option for WWE to straight up buy it, and even if they don't, they're going to control it. So it could be a thing where they just keep him under NXT contract and just use him like a WWE talent, and which
You mean
makes
under a
things
TNA
so
contract?
under
Yes.
under a TNA contract, just use him as a WWE talent, which does make things messy, but that's a very realistic option at this point in time. Um,
Well, it's also because they have certain standards about the contract terms and pay scale within WWE at this current moment. I don't know if TNA has as high of pay scale.
yeah, well, and that's another it's another way for WWE to kind of keep talent costs low if they're just going to tell people, hey, why don't you sign with TNA, and people think that that's the stepping stone to eventually get into NXT, which is eventually the stepping stone to get into the main roster. So it's just
Yeah.
they're putting more barriers of lower pay in front of the talent, which doesn't work as well when you have AEW in the world. And I think that's part of why they're trying to get rid of them, because they're trying to stagger this out in a way that isn't in their best interest. And I think Joe Hendry is someone that might be the first example of that. And I think it goes along with the idea that he's someone that would work really well in WWE, but not so much in AEW. And I don't think anyone really in AEW. I don't think there's a lot of interest from him for him in AEW in the first place. So because of that, they can kind of control that because they know that he doesn't have that leverage.
So as far as it goes for free agency tracker, he's currently at the probable tier. Do you think that moving him up to likely is what we should do, or keep him at
I
probable?
I said we move him up to likely. I voted for
Okay.
likely.
Well, then let's do that. We're going to formalize that and say he is going up to the likely tier. How about we talk about now somebody that might be leaving WWE or might not? We'll find out. Is The Miz. His WWE contract expires by the end of this year. This is the second time that we've heard about this from different outlets that this is going to be happening. Um, what do you think are the odds that The Miz actually leaves WWE willingly? Is the best way of putting it, I think, because I think that there's a chance that The Miz could have his contract expire based off of where he is on the roster at this point.
Well, I don't. Oh, here's the thing. Would they let the contract expire? I think they would.
I think they
I
definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that the Miz in 2025 or 2026, when it is anyone of significance. I think that he had his run. They've done everything that they could possibly do with him. I don't think that he's someone that uh, people are going to be clamoring for.
Like fans would be clamoring
Yeah,
for. I think
fans.
talent generally like him.
I think he's a likable guy for sure. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about Karrion Cross when we get to him as well. But he's a situation where I could see him, you know, taking a stint over in a WWE aligned TNA at some point.
Yeah, I feel
So
like when I look at the Miz, I see a lot of parallels to what was happening with Nick and Nemeth previously. I could see him trying to do a similar arc. I mean, whereas Nick Nemeth had some experience from amateur wrestling, and the Miz's experience is more not that. So it might not work for him to do a gig over in New Japan or anything like that. But I could see him ending up long term with the TNA if WWE doesn't renew his contract. Because I think that's the more likely factor of the two of him leaving WWE. I don't think that he would, willingly leave WWE. I think that he's made a good home there over the years, and that like I mean, like considering where he's placed on the roster, I think generally speaking, they've been pretty treated him pretty well over the years. So I wouldn't be surprised if he accepts whatever offer they have on the table for him. But I think that if he doesn't accept the offer, or if WWE doesn't do the offer, I think TNA is a likely destination for him, honestly.
mhm, I agree. And
Or going on the reality TV circuit, back to that,
yeah, he doesn't need wrestling, honestly.
He
Um,
doesn't. He doesn't. Um,
do you want to
so
just kind of segue into Karrion Cross since
yeah, we can after we say, do we want to put the Miz on the tracker? I do.
I
I think
put
it's
him?
time
Yeah,
to. I think it's
I put him at remote. I voted for
Yeah,
remote.
I think that that's exactly where you should go. Is just remote. Just put him on the tracker for the time being. Just because like we know that his contract is running out, and I think he's notable enough of a talent to keep an eye on.
I agree.
So let's talk about the carrying cross of it all, which is the weirdness that is carrying cross's contract expiration. He claims vehemently that WWE didn't offer him a contract until the 11th hour, and that the contract was not to his liking on compensation. He claims also this is partially from a Ariel Hawani interview, which has become the new place for people to go as a first stop after leaving
The new
WWE.
state media.
Perhaps it could be that's what people are thinking to themselves of maybe if there's somebody that wants to showcase that they still want to go to WWE again if the cards fall in the right place in the future, but he was on Air Hawani and he was saying these things that WWE offered him a deal that he didn't think was adequately compensating. He was asking and questioning them of why they were offering him as much money as they did. They were not going to even talk to Scarlett until they negotiated with Karrion. That's the way that it's been portrayed by Karrion Cross. The other sources in WWE are also like, agreeing that this is a legit contract expiration. Is it a real contract expiration though? And the question that I have with this, the big question um, is it moral, I suppose, to um, make a storyline out of a contract expiration when other people's contracts are also expiring at the same time? I don't think so. But at the same time, we don't know for certain whether or not this is a work or not. And everything that we've been told is that this is totally not a work. And just to give contrast to this, where people will say this about the Seth Rollins injury thing, that, oh yeah, they were working all the people backstage and they were working their family. We knew like 2 weeks prior to SummerSlam from reports in the media that it was a work. We had people saying the night of the injury that it was a work. This is a different circumstance, I think. This is every single source is saying this is real contract expiration. So
Right.
that's the
Well,
scene.
and he's also, he's obviously promoters are inquiring, as mentioned,
Yes. Yeah.
and they say his rate is very, very high, and then the promoters are saying they don't even buy it either.
Yeah, because like if your rate is extremely high, maybe it's for one of two reasons. Either you think that you're worth that much, which tracks with what Karrion is saying himself, sure, or you're just trying to give the appearance that you are an actual free agent, but guaranteed that nobody is going to actually try to book you because your rate's too high.
And here's the thing. I think this could tie into TNA as well. It's like, yeah, maybe it's like a real expiration, but it's with this idea, hey, you're going to be going to our partner promotion TNA, and we have a contract waiting for you there. So once again, it's a release, but it's a release in the sense, in not in the traditional sense, because he's still going to be under the umbrella.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be something like that. I feel like there's just too much smoke for this to be, there, because this we've seen already with the Seth Rollins thing. This is not a company that is very good at hiding things. Like,
Well, I would point out, of course, that no reporters yet have said this isn't work.
yeah.
So, whereas with the Seth Rollins thing, everybody was saying it's a work except for one guy, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
it once again though, but this is also a situation where it could be a legitimate, expiration with a plan already in place, which is just something we
I
haven't
think,
really seen in
I mean, the
decades.
the thing with that though is that like at the same time that we're hearing all this stuff about the TNA deals that they're trying to work out, and like the possibility that they have like a first refusal clause with WWE and everything, like I just think that we would have heard by now if that was what was happening. I think somebody would have blabbered about this elaborate plan,
Mm-hmm.
because the TNA side seems to be very open mouthed right now,
Yeah.
So I think that we would have heard by now that, oh yeah, this is totally a real exploration. However, I feel like that's possible. So we're not going to move Karrion across on the tracker this week. He wasn't up for a vote, but I would like to ask you, where would you put the likelihood of this being a work?
It's very high. I think
You
there's
would
just, I
you would
think,
put it at likely tier as
okay.
a work?
Okay. I think it is extremely unlikely that this is a situation where he is genuinely up for expiration and there isn't like some plan in place for
Okay,
what's going to
so you would
happen with someone involved in WWE in some capacity, even if it's like tied to a partner promotion.
so you would put him at likely as this is a work.
Yeah.
I
Like,
would put it as a possible work.
I think
That's as far as I would go.
and it's weird because it's like at some point you have to like, what is a work? Like, because it's like I think that I think he genuinely might be
Well,
expiring. So
well,
in
I would say
that's a shoot in that regard, but it's
I would say either what you described, your scenario that you described, or he is not actually released. Those are the both works,
yeah,
right?
I would say so.
Even if they, yeah. So I think we should check in next week on this about where you would place the likeliness of this being a work next week rather than us moving Karrion Kross at all on the tracker. um, because that would be very confusing, I think, to try to work shoot the shoot with the work, brother.
It's very messy.
So let's just do some quick hits with other people that we wanted to move up and down or all around on the tracker this week. Matt Cardona is going to be dropping off for low confidence from the tracker. He previously was at remote. Just hasn't been a lot going on with Matt Cardona's free agency prospects. It seems to be very entrenched back into just being independent wrestler Matt Cardona.
Yeah, I honestly was fine keeping him on there because I feel like Matt Cardona is always just kind of like on the periphery and he could be brought back at any point. And he's always someone that I'm keeping an eye on. And I'm going to continue keeping an eye on him because, you know, regardless of what he's been doing lately, and you could argue that GCW just has kind of fallen off in relevancy for the last couple of years. He still has name recognition. People still pay attention when he jumps back in, you know, Ring of Honor or whatever. And I think he's someone that if they do bring back into say WWE as what was his WWE name again?
Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder, as he comes back as Zack Ryder, and people will pay attention. So I'm going to keep an eye on him still, but I'm fine taking him off for now, though.
We have Michael Oku, who is currently at toss-up, and he's going to remain at toss-up. The big news with him since the last time we voted on him in April was that he was flown into Texas to work Supercard of Honor during All In weekend. We haven't heard any other contract news with him recently or anything else, but whenever he's used in AEW and ROH, he gets his full entrance. He's presented like somebody that matters. He got a pretty marquee slot, I think, versus Hechizero, knowing that Hechizero recently signed a dual contract with AEW and CMLL. So and he has talent looking and wanting him to come over to AEW. Obviously, Ospreay historically, Speedball Mike Bailey recently. So
they brought Amira too. They brought Amira.
Yeah, they brought the entire presentation for Oku with every glitz and glamour in person required to make him Michael Oku do hey. So with that, I think that toss up is still fine to keep him at. I could see an argument for probable, but I think toss up still is the kind of place we could keep him at. I still would want probable, but I understand about a toss up.
We voted on him since Supercard. It's just once again we didn't change anything.
This is the time that we voted on him.
Oh, we didn't vote on him before? I thought we did.
No, this is it.
Okay. Well, either way, I would say, I think nothing has changed. You know, I think you're right. I think there was some nominations for him. We considered it after Supercard, but I think ultimately we felt nothing was going to change. So
Ninja Mack is likely currently on our tracker. We haven't had contract news about him, but we have two pieces of the puzzle here. So I want to present these to you, and you might have to reconsider how you voted after I say these things. So,
I'm listening.
So first half of the conversation is all the things that we knew going into this about Best of the Super Juniors that got him up to the likely tier was that he was being promoted as with the line mark, right?
Yes.
He was on Best of the Super Juniors this year. Previous years, he was not promoted with the line mark. He hasn't done any dates since then with New Japan. However, it's G1 season. So there you go. Next layer on this is that he is being used in the promotional material for the upcoming New Japan X Stardom historic crossover. He is on the poster. So, given that he is on the poster and being promoted for future New Japan work, where would you like to put him on the tier list? I will give you two options. Okay, because this is where the most of our council has dropped in.
Can I guess?
Well,
is it likely or probable?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you think that he should remain as likely as he currently is, or drop down one tier to probable? Whatever you say is what we're going to go with.
Okay.
Whatever you say.
I'll be honest. The poster doesn't influence me that much. Just because they're on the poster, I don't think that matters. However, and the historical crossover show is just such a weird. I love that show. Just keep in mind, I love the historic crossover. That's a great little show, but I also feel like it's a show where they do a lot of weird non-canon stuff.
Do you think do you say non-canon as in non-canon to kayfabe of the storylines, or do you mean non-canon as in they bring in a bunch of people that are not signed to either promotion?
They
Because
I don't think
it's
it's the
not that.
latter. I don't
It's
think
not
it's
the
the latter.
latter.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
not
the
the
latter.
latter. So has anything changed since the last time that we voted on him, do you think, then, to knock him down?
No, you're right. Nothing has changed. I guess I just want. I feel like there needs to be. I want more information on
You
Ninja
want
Mac.
more info?
I
Yeah.
want. I want to learn more Ninja Mac. Ninja Mac. I
Maybe
want to be aware.
we should probably reach out to Ninja Mac and ask him,
Ninja
even.
Mac. We're gonna clip this and I'm gonna send it to
Clip
him.
this. Yeah.
And then Ninja Mac, you're gonna respond because friend of the show, Ninja Mac.
Friends of the show, Ninja Mac. Yeah, let's keep him at likely then for now. And then
Okay.
if after his sort of crossover, we don't see him back in New Japan much, maybe then we consider what's going on.
Okay.
Because like I think G1 is kind of taking up the air of booking for people that are, super juniors. So the last one that we have two more quick hits. Rhio, the British Rhio. She's currently at probable. We have had no updates since the last vote. I will mention though that coming up, WWE is doing their next European tour, which I think is going to be the time at which we will hear more about any of these possible European signings, such as Zozaya that we've talked about before. So I personally would want to keep her at probable. Where would you want to put her?
I'm I want to drop her.
You want to drop her down one to toss up?
I was gonna drop her down 2 to probable.
Well, we're only
Or I
doing
mean possible.
we're
But
only doing one drop if that's gonna happen.
I want to then I want to bring her down to toss up because I'm
Okay.
thinking it's less and less likely at this point.
Okay, so we'll move Rhio down to toss up, and then finally we have Shinsuke Nakamura, where we have two options as well, and you will be the judge, jury, and executioner
Okay.
of the best of strong style himself. Well, he has had no contract updates since the last vote. That was back in April, right before Mania. Nakamura has had 3 matches total since then. Do you want to guess what they were?
I wouldn't even know.
It was a Andre the Giant Battle Royal,
Okay.
a qualifier for Money in the Bank, which he lost,
Okay.
and a qualifier for the King of the Ring tournament, which he lost. Those are the only 3 matches he has done. He has not done a single house show match. He's not done anything else.
It's not a lot. That's
Not a lot. Not a lot. So your options are
Okay.
he is currently at unlikely.
Okay.
That is option number 1. And then the option number 2 is remote because we have not heard anything. And so considering that his contract allegedly should have expired by now, maybe it quietly re-signed. We don't know, right? So those are the 2 options for you, unlikely or remote. Where would you like to put Mr. Nakamura?
I think I'm just gonna keep him at unlikely for right now.
Okay.
Unless we hear something new. I think that's probably the best place.
He did get a photo with Okada.
That was nice of him.
They hung out.
That was
Yeah,
nice of Okada to give him a photo op.
His number 1 fan.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have some interesting comments from the council this week. Somebody's saying that they think that the Miz being up here for a vote is the most interesting one since Danielson, possibly funniest. I don't know. I mean, I think Danielson, retrospectively, should not have been reconsidered to be put back on.
Like, do I think he's gonna go anywhere that we actually track? No, but at the same time, I
think that
consider him.
I think the Miz is notable enough that he gets the Iwatani rule, which is it doesn't matter where he goes. He's notable enough to be on the tracker. So from there, I mean, I think that there's more of a chance of the Miz right now either having his contract expire or him willingly leaving WWE because the pay cut is so much for this upcoming contract, then I think that there was of Danielson this time last year leaving AEW.
I think that's fair. And I also think, yeah, sometimes I think people just forget. It's like at some point, it's like they made their money and they're in their career and they see where they're at. And sometimes it just makes sense to walk away for both parties. And I think that that's absolutely a situation that The Miz could find himself in.
We also have one person that was just asking about should there be a no news means no movement cutoff? They were putting theirs as the 90-day ticker, which is kind of what we've been doing recently. Is when people have been on the track for a little while with with no news, we bring them back up for a vote just to keep an eye on them. And they were saying that that made for a lot of low confidence votes. I think that my strategy with how I'm trying to assess things here on the WrestleWatch podcast is that if I don't have news and nothing has changed of the news, I tend to try to keep them at the level that they are, or maybe to bring them down just one tier in
Yeah.
likelihood,
I mean,
rather than just taking them off entirely.
yeah, I think we do a good job of just evaluate, keep it. I think we have the 100-day count just to touch base, and I
Mhm.
think that that's good. And I think it's okay to knock some people off for low confidence because at some point we've had a pretty bloated tracker.
That
And
was kind of what's happened with Matt Cardona here, is that I think that we've been slowly knocking him down one tier at a time until now he's just low confidence
yeah,
after so long without news.
yeah, we don't want situations where someone's just been on the tracker for like 9 months without a vote just because we forgot about them. So I
Yeah.
think having the 100-day check-ins is useful in that regard, and I think we do. I don't think anyone on that tracker right now shouldn't be on the tracker.
And we can end the episode with this last comment that I have here from the council for this week's episode. LOL TNA. With that,
With that,
I've been Ryan. This has been Doug over here. We are both just as close to Chicago right now as we've ever been.
probably, yeah, we're probably about the same because Joliet and you know northern
Look,
Indiana is
look,
pretty close.
location not verified at a
Yeah,
casino that is outside Chicago.
yeah,
We're not going to say where it is, though.
yeah, but
Um,
yeah, absolutely, but
I'm not gambling for the record. For the record, everybody, okay? I only gamble when it comes to the likelihood that Karrion Cross is working us. That is the only thing I will gamble on.
it's the only thing that matters.
The only thing that matters is Killer Cross coming back, baby.
Yeah. All
With
right.
that, I hope that everybody has a fantastic week. And oh, we have All In. No, not All In. The other one, Forbidden Door, coming
Yes,
up next week. I will be going to London. I'll be there on the ground reporting.
I will
I will.
be here.
Yeah. You'll still be as far away from Chicago as currently.
Yes.
I will be going to the Riot Cabaret show and Eve at Big Penny Arcade up near Tottenham.
Tell Dan Ryan that Dan Reed. Tell Dan Reed that I said hi.
Okay, okay. So if anybody sees me at those shows and knows who I am at all, uh, say hey. I'll be the guy that is not British at the shows. And yeah, I'm gonna skip out on the Rev Pro shows because I just find I'm just finding the Ride Cabaret and Eve shows a little bit more interesting from who's getting booked for them, and the Rev Pro is a little bit like I mean I'll catch it on repeat, you know. I know it's going to be really good wrestling, but I wanted to go to shows that I thought were going to be really fun shows live, and then Forbidden Door will be the really good wrestling show that I'll go and see.
All right. Sounds like a plan. So until
Yes.
next time, everyone, have a great day.
All right, everybody. See you.
And a little oopsie poopsie on this one. We forgot to even go over the free agency tracker, of course. And says certain tier we have nobody, likely our Ninja Max Ozaya and Joe Hendry. Probable are B Priestley, Dakota Kai, Danhausen, and Miyu Yamashita. Toss up, we have Michael Oku, Priscilla Kelly, Shayna Baszler, and Rio. Possible are Private Party and Sari. Unlikely are Gabe Kidd, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bailey, Diana Perazzo, and Masha Slamovich. And down a remote, we have Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Bishop Dyer, Chris Jericho, Karrion Kross, Persephone, Leon Slater, Saraya, and The Miz. Now that gets us through this week's episode of the WrestleWatch podcast. Hope everybody has a good rest of your week. Bye.